A very good evening to everyone. My name is Ed Nichols, and through the hub of activities and various services that we've been providing from Dunstan Activity Centre, we've been bringing you this series called Here and Now. Here and Now. And you will remember that this is a listening service, that if you feel I really need to talk myself out, there's so much going on in my life and I just don't seem like I've ever been able to talk myself out, then this service is to provide you with compassionate listeners. People who will listen to you, not so much ready to give you advice as to listen long. So that if you were speaking for an hour, 55 minutes in the hour would be basically listening to you speak. And only in the last 5 minutes perhaps would a few things be suggested. But I want to encourage you to know that this is part of a much wider caring system for you and for me and all of us in our communities in these challenging times who need to talk, or perhaps even before pandemic, we need to talk. We need to feel nobody is really listening to me. I can't seem to get these things out of my heart, out of my mind. I can't seem to express them because nobody seems to want to listen to me. I feel so alone. I feel so isolated. You see, there is, may I say to you, there is a caring service around you. There are people who care about you that you don't even know about. You might think, if I died, who would care? Well, I want to tell you something. I know a lot of people who would care. The fact that you died, before your time or anything would be a huge issue for many, many people. Even people you don't know who are strangers would care. They would think, how awful, how tragic. Do you know, I know men and women, when they hear of people basically in bad ways and sometimes who've taken their lives and things, I know men who feel it was like losing my own son. And yet this man was not only their own son, but they didn't even know him. But that's what it felt like. And why would it feel like that to a man? Like he lost his own son when this man is a stranger. It's because people care. They care more than you think. I know women who, when they hear of bad times coming to women, and tragic ends to women, they say, it's just like losing a daughter. And yet the woman that they're talking about, they don't even know. It certainly wasn't their daughter. They don't even know them, but they do care. They care. People care. And can I say to you that if you think of the services, we are providing one very local service to people in the inner communities of Gateshead and this northeast of England, which is quite a small area. But there, as you know, there is the Samaritans, which will listen, 24/7 to people who need to talk and who perhaps find it easier to talk to strangers than someone a bit closer. They're always there. Pick the phone up. If you need to talk. Let me encourage you to do that. And of course, we have our medical centres, and we never say bypass your medical centres. They have talking therapies and counselling sessions, and doctors can help you. And so we're not looking to be some kind of distinct service. We are part of wider services locally and nationally. Do take full advantage of those who care for you and who will listen to you and who will help you. You're cared much more than you know. We know that there's a lot of bad stuff in our society, a lot of wrong stuff, a lot of selfishness, a lot of self-centered living. But there's a lot of good things, a lot of kind people. There's a lot of generous people. There are a lot of people who care sincerely for you, for me, and for us all. I want to encourage you. So this service, Here and Now, means that if you want to contact us, for example, and say you can't get a therapy session, a listening therapy, you cannot get an appointment with someone quickly, then we provide a service that allows you pretty immediately to be able to talk. And so this Here and Now service that we provide through Dunstan Activity Centre it works like this. You can contact me initially, Ed Nichols, Nichols, by telephoning me on 0191 460 4567. Or if you prefer, you can email me on ed.nichols, Nichols, @live.com. And if you want to talk, then we can set up a way of you being able to do that in a way that you're comfortable with. It could be Zoom or FaceTime. It could be just by telephone. It could be by a face-to-face, socially distanced and mask-wearing time. But basically, there are lots of options. But the main thing is that you're comfortable with it. There can be men or there can be women who will listen compassionately to you. So if we can help, please just look at the contact details at the end and please reach out. I just want to say this to you finally. You know, as I come and speak week after week about these sessions, it strikes me, it was just striking me today, you know, that people might think, oh, he might think he's got all the answers, that he really doesn't have my problems, that he's not vulnerable, that he's, you know, the kind of things that really make me desolate and depressed and think, is life worth it, never happened to him. May I tell you that that really isn't the case. I am as vulnerable as you are. I have the potential to get discouraged, depressed, to feel, you know, my life's not worth living. I have the same potential as any other human being. And so often, you know, when things go tragically for human beings, I say, along with many, many other human beings, there but for the grace of God go I. You see, we're all more vulnerable than we like to admit. Sometimes people who are strong, who are macho, they don't like to admit weakness. But you know what I really believe? That we only really share with one another when we share weakness. We don't share around strength. We share around weakness. And we all have so much in common. I want to encourage you, if you're feeling rather isolated and alone, feeling very vulnerable, and you kind of think, everybody else, it seems to be so much better for them. I want to say to you, it isn't the case. It might look like it's the case at times. Because when you're feeling down and you look around, it seems like everybody else seems to be like they're up. But it isn't the case. You don't know what goes on inside a human heart and inside a human mind, within the emotions of a man or a woman. You don't know. Some people are better at hiding it than others. We wear masks all the time now, don't we? You know, to keep coronavirus from infecting others through our mouths and noses. But you know, a lot of us have been wearing masks way before the pandemic. We've been wearing masks to give people the impression that everything is wonderful, when inside we're falling to bits. Oh, my life is special, I have this, I've got this, I've got this, I've got it all together, when actually, when we stop, when we're alone, when our head hits the pillow, we're really like a vulnerable child, a vulnerable boy, a vulnerable girl. May I say to you, let's not be frightened of our vulnerability. I would say to you that vulnerability is part of being human. Hasn't this pandemic taught the world how vulnerable it is? One virus has shook the whole earth. But we are vulnerable whether that pandemic came or didn't. We're vulnerable every day. Circumstances can affect us deeply. People and things they say and do or don't do when we wanted them to do things for us, they affect us deeply, and we can be very vulnerable. And I want to encourage you to see that. Look at this graphic of this woman. Can you see here the body language on this woman? This is usually the body language of someone who is feeling vulnerable. Do you notice the eyes drop? And the head tends to drop. And we kind of put our hand on our mouth just to say, you know, what's going on? Our body language often reveals that we're feeling isolated, alone, rather desolate, and we need to talk. We need to be listened to. We need to unburden ourselves. I want to encourage you to see that this woman is probably like every woman at some point in her life. And that being vulnerable is not just for you some kind of corner on life. It's for us all. We all have been in those corners. We've all known what it is to be vulnerable. We really have. I have. It would be dishonest of me to come here pretending that, oh, I've got all the answers, and if only... But I don't have all the answers at all. And the kind of things I say to you, I'm speaking to myself as I say them. Look at this graphic now. This is of a young man again, with hands over his face and eyes, looking down. And as it is with the woman that we saw, so every man can know how vulnerable he is. And it is foolish bravado, it's a stupid sense of being macho that tries to hide vulnerability. That somehow we're so strong and we just throw it off. Sometimes, in Geordie land here, that's the way people are. Oh, it doesn't matter, all this, and it's all bluster. And it's actually very shallow. And I think if we really think about it, rather foolish. It's okay to be vulnerable. I think what I would just close and saying to you is this. But you mustn't just, allow yourself to be vulnerable. But you must do something about your vulnerability. Vulnerability tells me I need something. I need someone. I need someone to listen to me. I need someone to talk to. I need someone to relate to. I need to find someone who I can express my vulnerability to and receive some comfort from them. Or perhaps just in getting it all out, I just feel I've been healed. It's all off my chest. It's all off my head, out of my emotions and out of my life. I want to encourage you very much that if you've been hurt in life, perhaps since a child and a young person, perhaps in your younger years as an adult, perhaps in your recent years as an adult, perhaps you feel I have emerged a vulnerable person because of my experience of life. Can I say to you one good thing to do with all of those things is this. I want you to imagine that all of your life, particularly the things that really brought you down, hurt you, negatively affected you, and made you feel terribly fragile and alone, terribly isolated and vulnerable. I just want you to imagine that you have a book in your hands, a book. It's quite a thick book because it's all of your life, everything that happened. And in that book is written all of the things that could, if you read it again, would make you feel vulnerable and fragile and discouraged. Now I want you to imagine that in your house there is a shelf so high that you take this book and you get someone to climb a very, very long ladder and to take that book and put it on the highest shelf, and then to get rid of that ladder that allowed them to climb to that shelf. So that basically that book is up there on this highest shelf that nobody can reach ever again, including you. Why is that important? I think it's important for this reason. Here is maturity, here is great wisdom. Forget what is behind. Forget the past. If you are chained to yesterday, how will you ever live in today? And how will you ever enter into tomorrow? I want to encourage you to write a new book. Let it begin now. Accept that you are vulnerable, but don't rehearse the things in the past that have made you feel so. Just accept being vulnerable as part of life, and then look to have that vulnerability comforted and helped and healed and by wisdom changed, so that you become a new person, so that you become a person who can be vulnerable and be vulnerable in front of others without feeling any shame or guilt that you're some kind of inferior being. Oh no, we're all very, very much the same. Isn't that really a very important truth? We're all very vulnerable. You know, tonight, if something happened in our earth again and just shook us again like this pandemic, it would only underline the truth that I'm sharing with you, that we're vulnerable. And yet it's okay to be vulnerable. Why not? Let's begin to write a new book, which starts with, I woke up one day and I realized that I was vulnerable. But that's okay. Everyone's vulnerable. But I'm learning to deal with my vulnerabilities by talking to others, to talking to people who will listen compassionately to me, to realize that people care about me. And if they give time to me to listen to me, it shows they care for me. Let's write a new book together in our communities, whether we are teenagers, whether we are young adults, middle-aged adults or elderly adults. Let's realize that we have a new book to write, however old we are. Let's begin the chapter today. I woke up one day and I realized I was vulnerable. But I realize also that all human beings are vulnerable. But that's okay. Let's begin to write that book, full of hope, full of optimism that can all change. The help is there for me in surprising ways sometimes, but that help is there for you and for me. And so thank you for your time. And as one vulnerable person to another, let me wish you a very, very pleasant life. And may the first chapter of your book be the best chapter that you've ever written so far concerning your life. A very good night to you. Thank you for your time.